Hello, everyone, and welcome to Molehill Mountain, episode 291. I'm Andrew, and I need a nap. So, that's it for the podcast now. And Chaos is here. Hello. At least I'm not talking to myself this week. Okay, so for those of you who didn't know, last week was all my fault. Andrew made a boo-boo. I streamed the entire podcast last week with it set to private. That's why no one could watch it. I mean, I'm not particularly popular, but I've been doing podcasts and live shows for years, many, many years, nigh a decade now. I have never had literally zero people watching anything, any stream or podcast I've done for the entire time. Not that that's impossible. Not that I would begrudge any of you finding a better way to fill your time, but that's never happened. So I was like, this is weird. I've never had zero viewers in anything I've ever done. Odd. Is the new season of Stranger Things really that good? Maybe I should watch season 3 because I never bothered. I always thought season 2 I thought was an amazing improvement over season 1, and I still wasn't that blown away by season 2. I'm just not that into Stranger Things, I guess. It's not bad, just not into it. But yeah, I accidentally streamed the entire podcast last week while set to private, so nobody could watch it. Now, I do think that YouTube should maybe consider, if in the course of human events someone tries to live stream a video that's set to private, maybe pop up a little message that says, hey, the video you're live streaming is currently set to private. Is that really what you want to do? You can. You can live stream a private video that nobody can watch. We give you the option to do that. 'Cause we're that nice. We're thoughtful. Gregarious beings are we. But just in case this was a boo-boo, like it probably would be in nigh 100% of the cases, just thought we'd pop up this little warning to let you know that the video you are live streaming is set to private and nobody can watch the video you are currently streaming live. Don't know why you would want to do that, so we just thought we'd put up this really long message. But YouTube does not do that, because YouTube trusts me implicitly. YouTube has a lot of faith in me. Which is why it keeps demonetizing my videos without watching them first, and then continually humiliates itself by watching the video and going, oh, hey, we were wrong again, as we have every other time. So maybe my theory doesn't hold all the water, but maybe there's a drop or two in the bottom of that bucket. The theory bucket. So, let's see. The bunker is doing too well. No message has gotten out. Well, I mean, once I finish the podcast, it is on my YouTube channel. I did afterwards set it to public, so you can watch it now. You can't chat with me live, because it's essentially a pre-recorded video, but boy did I feel silly. Jared says, to be fair, it's not the first time you've done / believe you did it last year as well. Did I? Huh. Did I realize it halfway through and... I don't remember doing that. Well, I need to... Hopefully I don't do it for a third time, because that doesn't help anybody. It's kind of embarrassing, because it's a really silly mistake to make. Anyway, So, as many of you are aware, tomorrow on the Sunday stream we will be diving in feet first I guess jumping. Can you dive feet first, or is it just jumping in feet first? Well, we are going to delve into Trails in the Sky the Third. It is that time. We will be starting into the next Trails game tomorrow. So this week I released a little nitpick video, just pointing out some small little niggling little issues that are not my favorite parts of the games that I hope to see addressed in subsequent installments. One of the best changes between the first and second game is they added item icons to all of the items to tell you what kind of item you just pulled out of a treasure chest. So imagine you're in one of the Tetrasilic Towers, right? And you open a treasure chest and you pull out a Gerfarblschnid. What is a Gerfarblschnid? Is it is it food? Can I eat it? Is it a weapon? If it's a weapon, whose weapon? Is it armor? Shoes? Book? Fish? What is a Gerfarblschnid? In the second game, all items have a little icon next to it that tells you exactly what kind of item it is, which is very, very helpful. So you pull out a Gerfarblschnid and you're like, oh, it's a quartz. Okay. That way you don't have to go into the menu and browse through every single item in your very deep pockets, trying to remember what the name of the day... What was it called? Trying to figure out what you just picked out of a chest and what the hell it is. So that was a really good change. Small nitpick I had with the first game, but it was a really wonderful change for the second game. So I imagine some of the things I complained about will be addressed in one of the next games at some point. So that'll be interesting to see how the games change and evolve. And if I like the changes. So... so I started out private and then realized it 20 minutes in. Okay. Alright, well... Bad Andrew. Last night I watched Trails in the Sky, the animation, which is I guess you could call it a Trails in the Sky movie or a Trails in the Sky two-part OVA. I think it was originally released as a two-part OVA. It's on Hulu as a full movie. And I watched it, and I have thoughts that I will share with you now. So, Trails in the Sky, the animated film, is, as I expected, completely worthless to anyone that does not both have a history with the games and actually enjoyed the games. If you haven't played or seen the games being played, the movie is not going to do much for you. If you don't already like the games, the movie's not going to change your mind any. Jared remembers me having the same complaint about the lack of a warning. Yeah, okay, so I've made that boo-boo before. Oopsie. But I made super certain this week not to stream a private video. Anyway, so Trails in the Sky, the animation. But if you've played the game, or at least watched someone else play it, and you like the game, how's the movie? It's a mixed bag, but that bag of mixed stuff contains some really good stuff. It's genuinely very funny in a lot of places. It captures a lot of what makes Trails in the Sky Trails in the Sky. It definitely feels like the game world. They do a nice job of adapting the various areas in the game, the various towns and ports, and Mistwald Forest, and the caves next to Elmo Village and stuff. expanding them to actually be a bustling town or a airship port, while still being recognizably the Zeiss Airport or the Mistwald Woods or something like that. They have an interesting interpretation of what the inside of one of the Tetrasilic Towers looks like. They have an interesting how the orbment is used for the various arts. It's you know how the orbment, it looks like kind of a big pocket watch, and you have the various quartz set in the various slots. Well, in the movie, before Estelle casts an art, she kind of touches a quartz and then and then traces a path along her orbment, kind of like she's unlocking a cell phone. I'm like, huh, that's how they work. That's kind of interesting. They do a really nice job with most of the characterizations. Estelle they're not exactly mimicking the movements in the game, which is understandable because it's isometric view. All the characters are pre-rendered sprites. These are full animations, and it would look weird if they just completely mimicked the animation from the game. But it keeps the same spirit because Estelle's method of attack is to just charge straight forward and take wild swings at things, which is very, very Estelle. Someone who does not think, who just runs and, I'm going to hit you with a stick! So they really captured that very well. Olivier's hilarious. He and Blue Blanc having a philosophical debate about beauty and love in the middle of a battle is hilarious. Just as hilarious as depicted in the game. It's really very funny. So they do a lot of really nice stuff that I, as a fan of the game, definitely appreciate. Here's what doesn't work. Here's something that's not why the movie's not great, but the style is a little bit different than the official art from the game. Not very different, but different. Not unrecognizably different. It's really close, but it's clear that someone else drew these characters. But it's close enough that it feels less like just a different style and more like the characters are consistently off-model. One weird example is Estelle. It may just be the way my monitor is calibrated, but Estelle looks like she has orange hair. In the movie, her hair is brown. It's lighter brown, maybe an auburn color, but it's not the orange that it is in the game, at least as is shown on my monitor. So that's an interesting difference. The characters it kind of reminds me of Crystal Dynamics' Avengers game. You know how all of the characters, it feels like they really wanted to use the likenesses of the actors in the MCU movies, but they couldn't get the rights to the likenesses, so they just got as close as they could without getting sued, and it looks like you've got a cast of, like, stunt doubles, or maybe you go to a dollar store and you see a Super Mario tree ornament, and it's not licensed by Nintendo, so it just looks completely wrong. It looks kind of like that. They look off-model rather than stylized or drawn in a new style. And it's a little off-putting throughout the movie, but not a huge deal. But where I think it goes wrong is the movie is an adaptation of part of the second game. Narratively. The movie covers essentially our Bracer friend's investigation of the weird stuff that's happening all over Liberia, including the ghost that shows up at the Janus Academy, the localized earthquakes that happen in Zeiss, the fog, the sleep fog that descends over Roland, and then Estelle getting kidnapped and held on the Glorious, and then she escapes. So it essentially dramatizes that section of the second game, which is maybe 3 chapters or something like that. It's a fairly large chunk of the game, but it starts with the battle near the old schoolhouse in Janus Academy with Blue Blanc and that big robot Archasm thing that he summons. So it's not particularly narratively satisfying because you don't have any setup. The characters don't. You're catching the middle of an arc. This feels like episodes 21, 22, and 23 from a much longer series, right? I mean, if you're a fan of the show and you know who these people are and what they're doing and where they are and why anything's important, you can follow along and it's fine, but it feels kind of like a fan film, like someone just wanted to dramatize this section of the game for whatever reason. What should they have done, in my very humble opinion? I'd have just written a new story. Just same characters. It can exist during the course of one of the games. That's fine. Just do a short little side story adventure that wasn't covered in the games, or maybe expand on something that was in the game. But tell a contained little story, because we don't get any resolution with, say, Zin never actually shows up in the battle with Walter in the cave outside of Elmo Village. Actually, Joshua shows up at that part. It's really weird. There's no resolution to the confrontation between Sherazard and Luciola in the forest. None of the everyone fell asleep in the fog stuff is ever brought up again. There's a lot of hay made about Ren and Estelle trying to save her from a life of crime that never resolves or goes anywhere. They do a nice job of 6 of the characters actually go out to Elmo Village, but when they investigate the cave, only 4 of them go. Just like in the game, you can only have 4 active party members. And there's a scene later that shows where I think it's Olivier and is it Zen? It's someone else who didn't go in the cave with them. They're back at one of the guild. They're back at the guild on the phone, relaying information from the other teams, because Kurt and Karna and Annalise and Steve, the other one, they're off investigating one of the other earthquake sites. You know, they're putting the little the gizmo that Professor Russell made. So they're at the guild, and there's like, okay, Karna and Annalise, they got their thing done. Okay, the other guys are doing stuff. Luciola's costume doesn't make any more sense in animation than it does in the game. I did not notice that Karna's outfit, speaking of her, is just a crop top. I did not realize that, because I don't think she has a full animated intro sprite. You know, when her character's introduced, we only see the headshot when she's talking and her little chibi icon. But I looked up official art from her, and yep, that the crop top is her costume. So okay. Another thing I noticed, which was kind of funny, is they have a bathing scene in the Elmo Village hot springs. We know what Sherazard is working with up top. That's clear from her outfit. Um, but I guess Estelle and Chloe are binding their busts something fierce, because they are rocking some impressively large breasts when they're bathing. I don't know where they're hiding those puppies, because again, they must be uncomfortably bound whenever they're dressed, because they both have like 42-inch chests when they're like, I can finally breathe. Let the girls out. You sick little monkey. Although we do get some wonderfully salacious shots of Olivier in the bath with Agate, so that's fun. You get to see some creepy sheep just wandering across the road. That's fun. There's a lot of great. Blue Blanc uses that move where he pins everyone down by throwing a knife into their shadow. That happens. So that's there's a lot of really good stuff. The animation is, the character design is a little off-putting, but the animation is pretty solid. The fight choreography is very well conceived, choreographed, and executed. Even if you're not a fan of the show, I think some of the humor will make you laugh, and some of the action will make you go, yay, action. There's some good stuff. It's a mixed bag. I'll be honest, even as a fan of the game, 50 minutes into the show, I was getting kind of bored. Because it's interesting to see this stuff dramatized in full animation, but it wasn't really anything new. I mean, in the game, I think when Estelle is kidnapped and taken to the Glorious, I think when they raid the base off of Valeria Lake, and they have to beat up Annalise and Karna and Kurt and Steve, whatever his name. What's the other guy's name? Shoot. They fight one of the doppelgangers or dolls of Joshua, and then they throw gas, and I think that's where they kidnap Estelle. In the animation, she's chasing she's chasing what she thinks is Joshua, but it's just one of the dolls, up to the top of whichever tower is over in Roland, and then she gets, and then I think Ren's Patter Matter Archasm kidnaps her from there, so that's a little different. So there are some differences that are interesting to note, but the main thrust of the happenings are the same. There's just no real overarching story or character arc for any of the characters. There's a little bit of one with Estelle and Joshua, but a lot of other stuff with the characters is not resolved. It doesn't work as a movie. It's fun if you're a fan of the show, but a fan of the game. But otherwise, it should have been its own story, or do a series. I think the world is strong enough to actually do a series for it. Though this definitely had a little bit of a budget, definitely more than they'd have if they were doing a 13 or 26 episode series. It also goes a little bit far with the Dragon Ball Z kind of people jumping 157 meters straight into the air, or punching someone through 17 stalactites that are 10 meters thick. It gets a little ridiculous in a few places, but and it's a cartoon, it's anime, it's fine. So I'm glad I watched it. I would not be opposed to them doing a Trails in the Sky show, or Trails show, probably Crossbell or Cold Steel, or I'm sure they'd be fine too. But worth a watch if you're a fan of the show. It's definitely, or a fan of the game. It's definitely an interesting watch if you have the opportunity to watch it. It's currently on Hulu, so if you have Hulu, you can watch it. So, to be fair, Jared says it's a big pocket watch, talking about the Orbments, yeah. Let's see. As a person had to revert to using thick cardboard tube as a weapon to kill something, I approve. There you are. She's supposed to have chestnut color, Estelle's hair. Yeah, I mean, it's not... It's just everything else is so close. It's weird that they changed the hair color that drastically. I mean, it's not brown, but it's not the orange. At least it appears orange on my monitor. That might just be my setup, but from what I've heard, the next animation of the series is supposed to cover part of the gap between some of the future games. See, there you go. Fill in the gaps of in the beginning of second chapter, you choose whether you want to journey with Shara or Agate, and the person you don't choose goes off with Annalise to do other stuff. Make the cartoon about Annalise and whoever she was with. What they were doing at the time. That'd be fun. There you go. That's one thing you could do, something we haven't seen in the game, and something that you could probably dramatize with an actual narrative arc, a beginning, middle, and end. That doesn't step on whatever else happened in the story. Jared says there is also a manga. Oh, hey. I did not know that. I'll have to look at it. Let me see if my library has a... I would assume it's called Trails. Or is it translated, or am I going to have to look up Kiseki something? Trails. Well, no trails or trails in the sky at my library. Kiseki. No. Okay, well, I'll look for that later. But thanks for pointing that out. Alright. So, this week was the premiere episode of Miss Marvel. So, spoilers, I guess, if you haven't seen it yet? Is there anything really to spoil? I mean, Kamala Khan is in it, and she gets powers from a bracelet. That's in the trailer. I mean, I don't know that there's really anything to spoil, but at your discretion. So I really enjoyed the first episode of the Kamala Khan show. I've read the first several issues of the Miss Marvel run. So it was really interesting comparing the two. I think the show does a really nice... First of all, it's got a hell of a visual style. It's kind of a cross between... like Edgar Wright, a la... what the hell's the name of that thing? It's a comic book... It's that comic book adaptation to Scott Pilgrim. And maybe James Gunn, kind of Guardians of the Galaxy. It's very colorful. It's got not just... If you saw the trailer, you saw it's got... If you saw what was that animated film? The Mitchells versus the Robots or something like that, where the protagonist, a teenage gal, she does a lot of doodles in her notebook. So a lot of the doodles show up on the screen as an expression of the way she sees the world and how she's feeling. They do a lot of that in this show. For example, Kamala's texting with her friends, and the tweets or the texts are represented in neon signs that pop up or little information tickers that the characters walk by. It's really clever. Not only that visual thing, but the way it's shot with different camera moves. This definitely feels like it has its... a unique directorial cinematography. The cinematography is distinct. In this, at least in the first episode, and it's a lot of fun to watch. Performances are all great. I think the characters so far actually work, especially Kamala's family, work a lot better on the screen than they did in the comic book. Like Kamala's brother and her parents, they're the same characters as they are in the comic books, but in the comic books I didn't like any of them, and in the show I was fine with I even liked the brother. I'm like, wow, because the brother just sucks in the book, but he's actually somewhat likable in the at least the first episode of the show. So visually interesting, genuinely funny, great performances. I love small touches like she's going to a convention to compete in a Miss Marvel costume contest, and her costume actually looks like something someone could conceivably throw together on their own. But then she has this fantasy daydream where she decides, this is how I'm going to sneak out of the house, and I'm going to jump out the window and flip off a tree branch and land in the three-point superhero pose, and then we're going to jump off of an overpass and land on top of a bus, and and this is her whole fantasy sequence of how they're going to get to the con. And in her fantasy sequence, in her fantasy of how she's going to get there, her homemade costume is a lot better than than the one she actually has. Not like, professional, this is going to be her complete costume later in the series. Just a lot higher quality. Because her head, in real life, her helmet is made out of cardboard, right? But in her fantasy, it's actually made of, plastic and rubber and natural material. It looks a lot nicer. I thought it was a nice touch. There are a few things, however, that do not work. Not enough to hurt the show, I think, but there's like 3 or 4 things throughout the show that are so unrealistic that they're so over the top that they're unrealistic even by the standards of the MCU. Like, there are a few character moments in the show where I was like, okay, no one in this reality would ever do that. So, Jared's going back to Trails manga. Legend of Heroes Trails from Zero pre-story, Ring of Judgment, and Trails of Lula, Trails in the Sky side story. Oh, well, I could read the second one if I can find it. I guess I could read Zero pre-story at any point before Trails of Zero. So I guess I could read both of them. Anyway, thank you, Jared. So, the show starts out mostly with Kamala doing her driver's test. And she accidentally, the car's in reverse, she doesn't know it, so she's like, okay, here we go, and reverse and bumps the car behind her. Okay, sure. That's funny. It's a mistake anyone could make. I mean, that's a mistake as simple as, say, streaming a live podcast with it set to private. Could happen to anyone. Could even happen to the same person twice. But the way it's dramatized, she slams her foot on the gas, pedal to the metal, and wham! The car behind her. And I'm like, no, no one would do that. No one would be like, okay, I'm nervous. All right, I'm doing a driver's test. I've got the instructor right next to me. Okay, all right, we're going to go forward. We're going to do this. Okay. Slam! No one would do that. I don't believe that for a million years that anyone would slam the accelerator to the floorboard. Nope. No. That was, in my opinion, an incorrect choice. No one would do that. That doesn't make any sense. That is not realistic for any character in the reality of the MCU. I don't buy that, sorry. So she goes to school, and there are 2 people chatting in front of her locker. And she's like, excuse me, I need to get by the locker. Just gotta get my textbook and okay. Now there are a couple of ways to do this. She could be so inassertive and mousy that she doesn't make any noise and they simply don't notice her, and then she shirks away without trying. They could be genuine bullies who just won't let her get at her locker. But the way it's dramatized, it's just two people who have no sensory perception whatsoever. Like, they can't hear a person speaking in a clear tone of voice, or a person who's literally trying to muscle between them to get at her locker. It's like they're stuck in a moment in time, and the rest of reality can't have any effect on them. Doesn't work. They're not being bullied. It's like they literally can't notice anything else. Doesn't work. Then, I guess her guidance counselor? Someone gets on the school intercom and says, Kamala Khan, please report to the guidance counselor's office. You're in trouble. Nah, Kamala, I'm just kidding. You're not in trouble. Or are you? Nah, it's cool. I'm just kidding with you. Come on over and blah, blah. No one would do that. No one. Not a single human being in our reality or the MCU reality would do that. No one would do that, ever. I don't buy it. No. Incorrect choice, says I. And that's, Kamala's parents are overprotective and don't want her to go to the Avengers Con. Well, her brother puts in a good word for her, and Mom says, okay, you can go, but only if your father goes with you. And suddenly the father jumps into the scene, painted full green like the Hulk, rawr, and being like really goofy and super psyched about escorting his daughter to the Comic-Con dressed as the Hulk. And her mom has a Hulk Jr. costume for her. It's like, look, you can be Hulk and Hulk Jr. I totally buy her making, Dad go with her, even buying her a costume that her mother finds appropriate. But the fact that her father would jump in on the scene, painted full green, he put a lot of time and effort into this, that he'd have to take off again and then dress up again later. I don't buy anyone doing that at all. Number one, I don't buy him actually being excited about this or wanting to dress up or doing that. It's funny, but it doesn't make any sense. The other thing, and if you read my reaction on Twitter Wednesday night, or very early Thursday morning, Zoe, who is one of the characters from the book, she's one of Kamala's classmates who's not a bully, but not nice either. She's kind of unconsciously racist. One of those where she'll say things that are racist, but it's clear that she doesn't recognize that it's racist, and she probably thinks that she's being very progressive. She's one of those. So anyway, Zoe is at the con too, also in the Miss Marvel costume contest. And an accident happens where there's a gigantic Thor's hammer decoration hanging from the ceiling. And this thing is like the thump, the flat side of the hammer is like 5 foot tall. That's how big this damn thing is. It's like 8 to 10 times larger than Mjolnir. It disconnects from the ceiling. The hammer disconnects from the ceiling and swings. And you think, oh, Kamala's going to push Zoe out of the way. No. Kamala just says, "Look out behind you," and then jumps out of the way herself. Zoe turns around and gets creamed by the flying hammer. And I'll be honest, I went, "Oh shit! They just killed Zoe!" That doesn't happen in the book. She's dead. She doesn't die, but she's dead. You don't survive that. Unless Chloe has superpowers, like she's literally invulnerable, you don't survive that. If that thing was... The speed at which that thing is swinging and the noise it made when it hit her shows me that that thing is solid. Because if it was made of paper mache, it would have just kind of crumpled against her. She wouldn't have been... But it hits her, and then she's just kind of hanging on the hammer going, "Oh no, what if I fall 10 feet and twist an ankle?" And then the hammer slams her against a wall, which actually looks kind of funny, but it's a wall that's like made of clouds, made of cotton, so maybe that cushioned her a bit, but then she falls and it's like, "Oh no, the real problem here is her falling. Someone catch her." And so Kamala does the stretchy limb thing to catch her, but there's a weird edit where it looks like she just hits the ground anyway. I have no idea how Zoe is not completely dead. That is not made out of paper mache. It's made out of something heavy enough that if it hit you full force at that speed, it would kill you. Zoe should be dead. Which means that she must be an Inhuman or something, because a normal human would die. Other than that, I really like the show. I don't mean to sell the show short. That's like, what, five issues I had with it. Everything else worked gangbusters for me. The characterizations, the humor, the cinematography, the direction, the choreography, the costuming, the set design, production design. I really enjoyed the first episode, and I'm looking forward to seeing more. Now let's talk about episode 4 of Obi-Wan. And yeah, I guess there are spoilers in this one if you haven't seen it yet. So last week, I talked about episode 3, because that was the episode that aired last week, you see. And what I complained about was some really odd logistical problems with the show, with characters... Like, there's a tunnel, and there's a character in the tunnel, and one of the characters runs down the tunnel to the other side, and somehow they miss each other in the middle of the tunnel. There's a lot of characters just warping past other characters in that episode, and it's weird. That wasn't a problem this week. This week was the problem for me was episode 4 has some of the worst conceived, choreographed, and executed action I have seen in any format in quite some time. So, spoilers now. Leia gets kidnapped and taken to a Empire base thing, and Obi-Wan and Susan from the last episode go to save her. Obi-Wan is getting his Force mojo back, and so he's able to block lightsaber bolts. I'm sorry, use his lightsaber to block blaster bolts. Cool. So, sometimes he'll get caught, and a stormtrooper will shoot at him, and he'll deflect the shot with his lightsaber. And then another stormtrooper will shoot at him, and he'll deflect that shot with his lightsaber. And then the first stormtrooper will shoot at him again. And you know what Obi-Wan does? He blocks the bolt with his lightsaber. And then the other stormtrooper, he's like, well, shoot. Shooting him doesn't work. I should try shooting him. And shoots him again. But Obi-Wan, cleverly, blocks that bolt with his lightsaber too. So the first one decides, maybe I should shoot him with my gun. And he tries it. But Obi-Wan's too crafty, and he blocks the bolt with his lightsaber. Most of the action scenes are Obi-Wan standing out in the open, just blocking blaster bolts with his lightsaber. I'm impressed. I couldn't do it. But visually, after a while, it's really boring. Not only is it unimaginative and lacking any excitement, it's also shot really, really poorly. This is some of the worst action photography I have seen in a while. I don't know what happened here. They dropped the ball in like a puddle of dog regurgitation, and then they went to pick up the ball, but now it's all covered in dog bile, and then they got a whiff of it and they regurgitated all over the ball, and now the ball has dog and human bile all over it, and then they're like starting to get woozy, and they slipped in some of the bile, and then they fell ass first into the puddle of bile, and then the ball started rolling away and just leaving a trail of bile across the floor. And then it landed in a pile of poop that the same dog had left on the other side of the room. And so now the ball is covered in two types of bile and doggy poop. And yeah, I'm saying it's bad. It's bad. It's really bad. Even some scenes that are kind of clever, like there's a bit where they're underwater. They're in a little connecting hallway that's underwater, and one of the deflected blaster bolts hits a window, and Obi-Wan is using the Force to hold the window closed so the water doesn't rush in. But it's a long hallway, and he's standing like 2/3 of the way into the hallway holding the window, and the bad guys are at the door right here, and they're trying to pry the door open to get in. And as soon as they get in, he lets go of the Force and runs all the way out. None of them bother shooting him, for some reason. And then they all drown. Conceptually, that's an okay idea, but it's shot so unbelievably poor. You'd have to see it to understand why it doesn't. I mean, that sounds kind of cool, right? And them looking through the closed door windows at all the stormtroopers just kind of floating in a hallway filled with water, that's an interesting shot. But oh my god, the whole last 25 minutes of the show is, action-wise, terrible. Susan gets captured, and she's being led away by stormtroopers, and so she physically overpowers them. Okay, cool. How does she do that? By awkwardly slapping one in the helmet. Is it like some... Did she like spin his helmet around on purpose so that he couldn't see? No, it's just really poorly choreographed and executed. Also, it's conceptually stupid. Just everything about the action in this episode was stunningly bad. Which is weird because while the action is not always the best in the Star Wars shows, it's never been this bad by every conceivable metric. It was really, really weird. Lindy says, please stop, I just had breakfast. Oh, sorry, Lindy. Jared says, none of the good shots are from the show. They're copied from other Star Wars games. I heard someone say, this is exactly like a scene from Jedi Fallen Order. I haven't played the game, so I don't know. I do feel bad about making fun of the lead character of Jedi Fallen Order. Because I remember when that game the first trailers for that game came out, I looked at the lead character and I was like, oh my god, that's the most boring character design I've ever seen. Oh my god. Could you come up with a more uninteresting looking lead character? And I dubbed him Blandy McBoyband. And then I found out that the character is based on an actual actor's likeness. And now I feel like an asshole. It's like, no, that's not a character design. That's actually a guy. I'm like, oh. Oh, I feel bad now. Sorry, Steve. No, seriously, what's the other guy's name? Annalise, Karna, Kurt, and shoot. Structurally, the episode is fine. I mean, Leia gets kidnapped, we mount a rescue mission, and shenanigans ensue. That's a fine setup. There's constant, is Susan gonna get away with pretending to be an Imperial officer? Oh, is Obi-Wan gonna be able to block all of the blaster bolts? La la la. Okay, there is one nice shot of Obi-Wan turns out the lights in a room where they're going to torture Leia, and I was wondering, it's like, is one of the stormtroopers gonna be like, can we really torture a kid? I don't want to torture a kid. Do you want to torture a kid? I don't. Like, yay Empire, boo Rebels, but I don't really want to torture a kid. No, they all seem really gung-ho about it. Or rather apathetic about it, rather. But that scene, Obi-Wan shuts off the lights in the room, and they're like, oh no. There's just that glowing red ring in the floor that lights the room, and suddenly the blue lightsaber lights up behind one of the guys, and he strikes him down and turns off his saber and disappears into the dark. Ignoring they do exactly the same thing with Ahsoka in, I think, Season 2 of Mandalorian, it's still a cool sequence. That it still works. That was cool. There's a weird shot where Susan is, being an Imperial officer, and she's got her little communicator, and she's talking to Obi-Wan, but she's like sitting down at a console literally next to another person. I'm like, and she's not even like trying to whisper. She's like, yeah, the girl should be in the thing over there, and the guy's like, and she's like, It is so weirdly staged. The blocking is really, really weird. And then one guy's like, you, come with me. And she's like, okay. And the other people are like, huh. And then she just, I guess, strangles him and then leaves his body in the back of the room and then goes and sits down again, and no one else in the room is like, whatever. That person's playing Galaga. Thought no one would notice. But we did. Poor Wade. Wade died. He gave us life so others could live. Might have been more impactful if we knew anything about him other than his name was Wade. Maybe if it was like the other guy that we had learned something about. It's like, yeah, I don't want to do a thing. My wife was Force sensitive, and they hunted her and killed her. And, he was like, okay, for the greater good, huzzah, and then gets killed. I mean, that, I wouldn't have liked that for that character anyway, but maybe if Wade had just doesn't, everyone's sad, and I feel bad about Wade. Poor Wade. Again, we, the audience, really don't know Wade, so kind of hard to empathize as much as I feel the show wants you to. The tone of the show reads to me like you should feel Wade's sacrifice, and you don't. I mean, you feel bad because a dude died, and that sucks. But again, we don't know Wade. There's like 3 characters in the Resistance other than Susan, and we got to know the other 2 a little bit, and the third guy's name was Wade. He's the one who died. I'm just saying, I feel like you want us to feel the impact of that moment more than we do. One of the ways to do that is to give us more than the character's name. I mean, at least we had his name. He may have even had a line before he died. I mean, before the scene when he dies. So, still gonna watch episode 5. Although I'm sure episode 5 of Obi-Wan is going to ignore Obi-Wan and Leia and Reva and everyone, and Susan, of course, and just skip over and see what the Mandalorian and Baby Yoda are doing. Gotta continue setting up Mandalorian Season 3. Gotta make sure people watch all the episodes. I hope they don't do that, but I would laugh. I definitely would give a chuckle if if episode 5 of Obi-Wan has nothing to do with Obi-Wan, and it's just the adventures of Mandalorian and Grogu for an hour. This is a joke because it's exactly what they did in the middle of Book of Boba Fett, only they did it for like 2 episodes. Oh, is it from Force Unleashed? Okay. With Star Killer. The guy's name, literally Star Killer. Steven Star Killer. Every death translates into a promotion in the Empire. Well, yeah, you kill someone and you get promoted, or someone above you gets killed by Vader, because Vader seems to... It is amazing that anyone works there. Like, I get evil fascist organizations, but, I mean, if you're a grunt or something, you're just the janitor, as long as the Death Star doesn't explode, you're probably going to be fine. No one's coming for you. And Darth Vader doesn't give a crap as long as you take out the trash. You know? Should be fine. Although I wouldn't want to be responsible for like cleaning the floor or emptying the trash in Vader's room, because he might be busy, and he's the kind of ornery guy who would kill you if you emptied the trash at the wrong time. Or he threw something away and then later changed his mind and got mad at you about it. Yeah. I mean, the upward career momentum in the Empire seems to have a fairly good chance of being force choked to death by Darth Vader. That's not appealing. It's interesting, because that's Susan's backstory. She's like, yeah, I joined the Empire and then I realized what it was. It's like, oh, are we the baddies? Oh, we're the baddies. Oops. Yeah. I mean, I just got one of the circulars and answered a job ad. I was like, oh, hey, I'm qualified for this. Cool, Empire, sure. Then I got there and I found out I was in an evil organization. Oops. So, Obi-Wan is still kind of meh. I like a lot of what it's doing narratively and character-wise, but some of the filmmaking is genuinely poor. Not all of it. There's a lot of really good stuff in here, don't get me wrong, but some of the filmmaking and choices are stunningly ill-advised from my perspective. Alright, so this week there were a lot of game presentations. We had the State of Play. I think that was this week. Was that this week? No, Summer Game... That was last week. We had Summer Game Fest, which was 3 hours long. And, let me see. Do I remember anything that happened? No. Guile, let's see. Let's look at my list here. Hey, Guile is in Street Fighter 6. Surprise. Aliens Dark Descent. It looks like it's going to be... I mean, there was like a second and a half of gameplay. It looks like it's probably going to be an XCOM-esque turn-based strategy game. Cool. But most of what they showed was just a pre-rendered cutscene, so who cares? We got some more gameplay of Callisto Protocol. Looks like Dead Space. Call of Duty looks like Call of Duty. We're getting Flashback 2. Y'all remember Flashback? Super Metal Dave and I played a bunch of Flashback on a couple years ago on one of the charity streams. So, hey, Flashback 2. Neat. Witchfire. I don't even remember. Fort Solis. I don't remember. Routine. I remember the name. Don't remember the game. Outriders, World Slayer. Don't care. Stormgate. Don't care. Highwater. Don't remember or care. American Arcadia. I don't know. Goat Simulator 3. Oh, yeah. That was kind of interesting, because Keeley introduces this one. He's like, oh, you've been waiting for years for this. And they started up, and it looks like the trailer from Dead Island 2 from like 10 years ago. Only it looks a lot worse. I was like, is this a parody of an old trailer? And yeah, it's Goat Simulator 3. Apparently there was a Goat Simulator 2 at some point. Or maybe there wasn't, and that's the joke. I don't know. Marvel's Midnight Suns. I've seen like 3 trailers for this now, and none of them have gameplay. I have no idea what the game is, so I don't care. Cuphead actually showed gameplay. Looks like Cuphead. So cool. Midnight Fight Express. Don't even remember. Honkai Star Rail. You'd think I'd remember a unique name like that, but I don't. Zenless Zone Zero. I don't remember that either. Got another trailer for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. Every time I see a new trailer, and there's like a new trailer for this game every other week, I look at it, I'm like, did the game not come out yet? Apparently the game hasn't come out yet. Super People. Don't remember. Humankind. Don't remember. One Piece Odyssey. Apparently it's an RPG, but who would know, because it was just pre-rendered cutscene, so looks like garbage, because it's One Piece, and I don't like One Piece. I apologize to all the One Piece fans. I don't like One Piece. It's mainly the character design. I hate the aesthetic of One Piece. Hate it. I find it really off-putting. I only saw the first couple of episodes. Really didn't like the characters or the story either, so guess it's just not for me. But I know One Piece is for a lot of people, and hey, you're getting an RPG. So I hope it's good. Soul Hackers 2. Don't know. Capcom Arcade Second Stadium. I guess it's what it sounds like. Metal Hellslinger. I think that's another one of those first-person shooters to a beat games. I keep thinking it would be funny if one of those had a difficulty mode where all the songs were like slow arias. So it's like 60 beats per minute. So you have to shoot really slow and make every shot count. Loving you, bang, is easy 'cause you're beautiful, bang. You know, that would amuse only me. The Quarry. Okay, I thought that had come out at some point, but no, apparently it came out this week. Another one of those, was it Supermassive who does those? It's a horror movie QuickTime event. Nightingale. I don't even remember that one. Something about Saints Row. Okay. Warhammer. Don't care. Layers of Fear. Don't care. Gotham Knights has Nightwing in it. We knew that, so okay. They're making a standalone Last of Us multiplayer game, but had nothing to show except, I guess, one piece of concept art. I don't care. And they're remaking Last of Us, the first game, for the PS5 and PC. I don't care. Because I played the first game on the... I don't know, PlayStation... I think I played the remastered one on the PlayStation 4, and it's okay. Thought it was okay. So that was a Summer Game Fest, which was really, really long. Today was the Wholesome Direct, which let's see if I remember anything from that. All right, Terra Nil. I played the demo for Terra Nil like a year ago. It's a how is that? How do you describe Terra Nil? It's like Sim Earth. You have to terraform a planet. It's a simulation game. It's actually cute. It's got a nice style. It's kind of fun. Not a whole lot memorable here. Let's see. A couple fun, like Lumberjack. You're a lumberjack. That's a bear. That's funny. Um. Blah, blah, blah. I'm reading the A Little to the Left is an organizing game where you organize stuff and a cat keeps knocking things over. That could be cute. There was something in here about paper trail. There it is. Where, you know, in the back of Mad Magazine where you fold the image to make a new image? Looks like it's a game so it's Gorogoa mixed with the back of a Mad Magazine folding page thing. That could be interesting. My big takeaway from the Wholesome Direct was, I swear to God, at least 20% of these have to be farming sims. It was so bad. Like, the show is only an hour long, but there's like 50 games here. I swear, at least 15, if not 20 of them, were farming sims. Trying to cash in on Stardew Valley, I guess, and I guess I can't blame them, but oh my God, I started giggling after a while on the inside, because it's like, just nothing but farming sims. I mean, you know, more than just farming, just like Harvest Moon and Stardew Valley are more than just farming, but whew, man, a lot of farming sim. Problem with the Wholesome Games Direct mainly is that most of the trailers were less than a minute long and weren't really long enough to show you much about the game other than it looks like every other game there. I mean, they almost all share exactly the same art style. So, oh, Scrungle, you made it at the very end. Bad YouTube. The new Saints Row looks awful. It looks like Saints Row, I guess. I mean, the trailer I saw for it they haven't really been showing gameplay. It's all been pre-rendered cutscenes. And this one seemed to be focused on, hey, there's a character creator. Oh, you mean like the others? Cool. That needed a 4-minute trailer. Thanks. I mean, I appreciate the variety. It's cool, but yeah, don't really care. Yeah, the TMNT game looks cool. I just thought it had come out at this point. I mean, it's just one of those things that's always on the verge of coming out. Ember talking about Vader says, to be honest, if you're on the life support system 24/7 with a pager nonstop, you'd get angry too, sure. Well, I'm on the last topic. So, I guess very, very last topic. Who won E3? Devolver Digital won E3, and there wasn't even an E3 this year. There wasn't one last year either. But Devolver Digital always wins because their show is actually entertaining to watch. To me. Were any of their games interesting? There was something about... there was one that looked kind of interesting where you're a character in a storybook and you jump out of the storybook and wander around the desk on which the storybook is placed. That could be interesting. There's kind of a... What's that? My name is Pedro, my friend Pedro, the thing with the banana thing. What game is that? That kind of wacky style where it's a first-person shooter except you kick things. That might be fun for 5 minutes. Might be fun for longer, but it looks like it could be fun for at least 5 minutes. But most of all, I just really enjoy the production of the Devolver Digital shows. They're just fun. I like the cast that they've developed for this 20 to 30 minute skit that they do every year. A little too reliant on pop culture references. Like, they're constantly quoting lines from popular movies like Terminator or Jurassic Park for no real reason other than this is a thing that exists, so we're going to use that line. I wish they'd stop doing that. I mean, the big robot, which was an impressive costume, was clearly based a bit on RoboCop 2. You know, Kane in RoboCop 2. RoboCop 2 in RoboCop 2. That's enough. That's enough of an homage. You don't need to do anything more. I'll cut them some slack on parodying Never-Ending Story, because nobody parodies the Never-Ending Story. So I'm like, okay, didn't expect that one. So go ahead. And it actually worked into the narrative that they were telling a bit better than the other. We're just saying a line from a movie because people will recognize that. And there is actually something to be said about the thing they're making fun of is literally the thing that they're doing. But I still find the production really fascinating to watch and genuinely entertaining and funny. So yay, Devolver Digital wins. Is Nintendo going to do anything this year? Hey, Nintendo, you doing anything? Call me. Let me know. Hey, you do a direct? I'll watch it. And then I'll blabber about it. I tell you, one thing Nintendo is good at is their digital presentations are usually pretty, from a pacing and construction standpoint, they're usually really well put together. Summer Games Fest, Jeff Keighley's show is consistently incredibly boring. I don't know the man personally. I don't know how many people work on this show. Something that large scale is really difficult to organize. I get that, but the presentation is just not there. It is unbelievably boring every single time. Even when there are some good trailers, it's just so mind-numbingly dull. The presentation sucks. Sony and Microsoft are often really bad at their presentations too. Nintendo is usually pretty good. They rarely bore us with fluff. There's not a lot of superfluous nonsense. The games are generally given enough time to breathe, but not sticking around so long to bore us. Although they do occasionally have directs that focus on one specific game, but they're upfront about that. Not into Nintendo, or I'm not into Pokemon? That's cool. Don't watch the Pokemon Direct. I do anyway because I'm an idiot, I guess. Yeah, I sat through the entire 20-minute Pokemon Direct. Why would you do that to yourself? It's the curse of being a fanboy, I guess. You gotta watch everything. And Nintendo also is really, really good about the very simple thing of show gameplay. Show the game that we'll be playing. You want us to buy your game? Show the gameplay. Because if you just show us a pre-rendered movie that doesn't even tell us what the hell the game is, can't speak for anyone else, I guess, but I don't care. I mean, it may be an interesting little mini-movie that you just made. Oh, I think, you know what else was this week? Was that Sonic. Sonic had a show this week that was really, really, really weird. I have never seen a show completely lie about itself. It feels like they'd shot the live-action elements, and then the powers that be changed their mind, and they had to go into a different direction, but didn't have time to change anything else. Like, there's a bit where the dude who voices Sonic in the movie is talking about the upcoming Blu-ray release. And he's like, okay, and now we're gonna watch some special features or something from the Blu-ray right now. Okay, not now. Now. And then we don't. Oh, okay. That was weird. Now, to be fair, his little spiel was intercut with what looked like previews showing off what's on the Blu-ray, so maybe they felt they had to shorten it up and they spliced it in with his commentary, and that was originally meant to go after, but they changed it. I don't know. Maybe don't leave that joke in at the end then. And then they were like, "Oh, hey, there's going to be like this little short, short film, a prequel to the new Sonic Frontiers game, and here's a preview of the short." And it was an image, and that was it. I guess not exactly a lot. It's just, was it Shadow or Knuckles or someone just kind of standing in the rain? I was like, why does this look like garbage? Oh, it's just like an animated screenshot. So it's just a push in on a still image with animated elements like moving grass and falling rain. You said we were going to see a preview of this short that'll be... This... I mean, I don't think anyone on Earth was expecting a still image of Knuckles or Shadow or whoever the hell it was standing in there doing nothing. That was weird. And then towards the end, they're like, and now we're gonna... You excited about our new Sonic game, Sonic Frontier? Then stop watching this presentation and go watch IGN's coverage. No, head over to IGN after this presentation. It really came off as stop watching this and go over to IGN. Now, to be fair, that was like literally the last minute of the presentation, but it was still really, really weird. It was the weirdest, one of the weirdest presentations I've ever seen. Hey, we've got a new game. We're real proud of it. You want to see it? Do you? You excited? Well, stop watching this and go over to IGN, suckers! Odd choice. I went over to IGN and I watched it, and it looks crap. It looks ugly and empty and boring. I hope it turns out good, but also keep in mind that I don't like any Sonic games. I think they're all bad. Even like Sonic 1 and 2. Like the ones that it's like, okay, I get Sonic 06 and stuff, but no, I don't like Sonic. I think all the games are fundamentally bad games that are no fun to play. I haven't played them all. Played the first 3. Played, I think I played one on the Wii. Don't remember which one. I haven't played them all the way through because I think they're really bad games. I'm just not a fan of Sonic. I'm a fan of the aesthetic and the design of the character. I think Sonic's a neat character. I've just always thought the games were bad. I've never seen what anyone else sees in these games. And to be clear, it doesn't make anyone else wrong. I'm not saying anyone's wrong to enjoy the Sonic games. I just don't like them. So, Nintendo, says Chaos, tends to let the game speak for itself. Generally, yeah. Nintendo's much better at that than most anybody. So... do I think there will be a Nintendo Direct this coming week? Microsoft and Bethesda go tomorrow. Oh, do they? Okay. Scrungle says E3 is just dead. The ESA says that they're going to do it next year, which is funny because I think it was Keeley's show. He said they're going to do it. They're going to do a live version of their show next year. And ESA says, "Oh yeah, we're doing a live version of E3 next year." It's like, fight. So, okay, I'm not going to either because I think both shows are boring. Let's see, what are we talking about? Whoa, now, says Scrungle, showing gameplay at a video game conference. Andrew, come on, man, it's 2022. Nobody does that. Chaos says Microsoft is really bad about poorly scripted stage banter. Yeah, I would say that generally speaking, here's the difference I see generally between live conferences from Sony and Microsoft. Sony gets its executives up on stage to say stuff that they know is boring. They don't seem to, like, they'll put Andrew Wilson up there and be like, hi everybody, here's tables and stats, and no one cares. But there isn't any artifice suggesting that they think we do care. It's just, we're just going to do this. Microsoft, on the other hand, pretends that they're cool and that they're hip. You know, with their t-shirts and blazer jackets. We're really hip. We're cool. And hello, fellow kids. And it's like, no. Stop it. No one cares about you. I'm sure you're a lovely person. I'm sure your potato salad recipe is top-notch. No one's here for you. No one cares about you. If you want a presenter, that's fine. If someone in your company happens to just be a natural presenter, go ahead and use them. That's fine. Sony one year did, I forget what the actor's name is, but he did a run of commercials where he was just the CEO of whatever at the time. And they hired him to do just a short, like, 5 or 6 minute thing at E3 one year, and it was wonderful. And it's like, just have him host every conference. Aisha Tyler did the Ubisoft thing a couple of times. She was solid too. If you want someone to host your show, hire someone who can host a show to host your show. Please stop embarrassing your employees and making us really uncomfortable. Don't do that. Don't do that to them. Don't do that to us. Look, you've got games. Wonderful games. We're gamers. And we want to buy your games. So just do what Nintendo does and show us the games. And then we'll give you money for the games that you've shown us. It does not need to be more complicated than that. Has anyone on Earth throughout history ever seen a Microsoft show and I was like, you know what, the new Forza game, I don't know. Oh, they went to the time and expense to get an actual real car on stage, and it's slowly spinning. Well, shit, I'm gonna buy Forza now. Has that ever happened? Like, did the money you spent to get that car on stage for a minute, has that ever resulted in even one additional sale? Maybe. But I wouldn't be surprised if the answer was literally no. No, because people who are interested in Forza are gonna buy Forza because they played the previous games and they think they're cool and they're pretty certain that the next one will be at least as cool. Or you showed them gameplay and they said, "Holy biscuits, that looks cool." I sincerely doubt a single human being throughout history has ever like, "Oh, you have a real car? That has nothing to do with the game, but since you have a car and it was shown off in public, I'm buying the game now. You convinced me." I don't know how much money they're spending on renting the car and insuring the car and the logistics to move the car around on the stage to get it to spin around and then getting it off the stage and cleaning the car, and that's probably hundreds of thousands of dollars at least just to have that car sitting there for no reason that I can discern. Or maybe I am completely wrong about this and having that car there increased their sales by like 100,000 copies. Maybe I'm completely wrong about that. It's quite possible because I am completely talking out of my ass. I'm going on instinct, on my intuition, which is never reliable. That's not a great way to do things. I am certainly open to the possibility that I am completely wrong about this, but I have never heard a convincing argument for why that was a worthwhile expenditure. as an example of why these shows are oftentimes boring and stupid, even though I still enjoy seeing trailers for upcoming games. Because I like games. Want to know what I'm going to be playing. And I would like you to tell me in a way that lets me know what I'm going to be playing. That Aliens game, if you cut off the last second and a half of the trailer, I would have no idea what the game was. It's Aliens. Is it a shooter? Probably a shooter. First person? Maybe. Third person? Maybe. Action adventure? Could be. RPG elements? Who knows? Could be a dating sim. Oh, it's more like XCOM, real-time strategy. Oh, okay. Maybe instead of spending hundreds of thousands of dollars or whatever and creating this cutscene that literally 0 people care about, maybe just show gameplay. You know, the actual experience that we're paying for. I mean, it's a cute little mini-movie. It was nice. Didn't mind seeing it. Enjoyed it for what it was, but did absolutely nothing to convince me to play the game. Now, again, I've mentioned this before, but I'm willing to cut, publishers a little bit of slack in the sense that it's there just to let you know that this brand or this IP is still there. Oh, look, there's an Alien game. I like Aliens, so I'll probably like the game no matter what it is. There's some value there, but I would argue that there's more value in showing more than a second and a half of gameplay. And again, it's possible that they don't have any gameplay to show yet. They just outsourced, make a little movie, and they just don't have any good-looking gameplay yet. That's possible. And I'm not saying don't make fun little pre-rendered movies. No, a lot of them are cool. Do that. But if you're going to do that, you do need to also show gameplay. Or at least if you want to interest me, you do. Because as we all know, all of these, the Summer Games Fest and the Devolver Digital and the Sonic thing and the Wholesome Direct, they're all targeting me. They're all aimed at me. All of these shows, all of these digital presentations, they all revolve around me. And they're all cribbing from Nintendo. The Devolver Direct, the Wholesome Direct. At least it's the Summer Game Fest and not like the Summer Game Fest Direct, right? It's like State of Play Direct. Microsoft Bethesda Direct. State of Play is pretty good. That's a pretty good name. What is Microsoft's show called? Do they even have a name? I don't remember. Sony used to do poorly scripted stage banter as well. Then they got away from that for their live stage shows, but they don't do those anymore. State of Play is usually boring. Yeah, State of Play is usually boring. There's a lot of times some good trailers, yes, but it's just the presentation is usually really bad. Kevin Butler, Chaos, thank you. That good call. Chaos says because Microsoft has FU money. You know, if it's the case that the folks who work at Microsoft just really like doing the presenting thing, they enjoy doing that, they get a kick out of it, even though they're bad at it, okay. I stream games every Sunday. I'm not particularly good at it, but I enjoy it. And I entertain almost 12 people, so yeah, worth it. You know, I don't mean to poop in anyone's punch bowl. I mostly try to critique without being mean. Right here, I'm crossing that line, but I do try and at least let everyone know that this is how I react to it. A lot of my opinions are completely subjective. I do have a few critiques that I feel are objective critiques. Like, there's no wiggle room here. I'm arguing, and this is a bad idea. I think empirically bad. But most of what I say is a subjective reaction, and I just try to explain why I feel that way. You may disagree. And again, if any of you have an explanation for why putting an actual car on stage, going to the expense to do that, is actually fiscally a good idea, I'd love to hear it. I'm sure there's a money person somewhere who said that's a great idea. And I would love to hear that argument. It's like, no. We should spend hundreds of thousands of dollars and a lot of man hours to put this car on stage. That will get attention. That people will like that. That will increase sales. That will get more eyeballs. Will it, though? Maybe it will. I don't see how. But I'd be willing to learn. So that's it for tonight. I actually thought this would be a short show, and I went half an hour over. Go fig. So, tomorrow, Trails in the Sky, the third. I am super excited, and there's a lot of things I want to talk about before we start the game, so if you don't want to hear me blabber, 12:20 would be a good time to show up. I kind of want to maybe do a quick recap of where we are in the world, mostly just to refresh my memory. I'd like to talk about where I think the story might be going. And I'd also like to do a little charity wager. Because I have a pretty easy prediction to make. And I'm going to gamble good money that I'm right. So stay tuned for that. I have no idea what that was supposed to mean, but what was that gesture? Who knows? Alright, so tomorrow, noon Pacific Standard Time, Trails in the Sky the 3rd. I hope you will be there. Because I will, whether you are or not. I'll be sure to set it to public so that if you want to be there, you can. So alright, hope to see you all tomorrow. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.